Hey guys, this is going to be my final reveal for my entry into the 75th anniversary Tiger One group build, hosted by Evan McCallum and, or as we all know him, Panzermeister 36 and Adam Mann. My contribution was going to be this one, which is Dragon's Kit 6600, which is the initial Tiger One. Of the 502nd Abteilung, around about the Leningrad region, circa 42-43, whereas I'd actually depict it around about January 1943. Fantastic kit. I loved every part of the assembly on this. Very straightforward, just crossed out the areas I didn't need for the construction on this kit, and using that method it actually solved a lot of problems, and the kit, well, you'll see for yourself. So here it is, guys. Okay, there we go. In fact, if I bring this forward a bit, you can actually see a bit better. There we go. It's basically depicting the tank around about January 1943, where they're actually on a outer patrol outside of Leningrad trying to make their way in. And you've got the battalion on the side here, and obviously the tank. Oh, hello. This has just stopped. Oh, I think I know why. Hang on. There we go, that's better. So, never quite prepared for a video, are you? Hang on, let's just move the camera around so it's a little bit more central. Excuse the junk on my bed. Let's move that out of the way. That's an ongoing project. Anyway, as I was saying, this is the end product, and I'm not kidding you guys, I am very, very happy with the end result. It's been a lot of hard work, a lot of time and a lot of patience in the whole of my spare time on the workbench, and results speak for themselves, to be honest with you. I want to thank everybody's very positive comments and feedback. You know, I'm really taken aback. In fact, to be honest with you, I think this has been the most enjoyable build I've done so far. And depicting a version of the Tiger that I've not built before is even more so. And as you have noticed, unlike most ordinary initials, it's got exhaust shrouds, because at this period they were starting to fit the exhaust shrouds, because obviously it was causing a lot of problems. The exhaust shrouds were actually sent to me by a good friend of mine over in the States, Rick Connell. Mark Hughes did actually send me a pair as well when I put out a request for one, but they didn't quite fit for this model of tank, so I'll be probably using them on a future build. So thank you, Mark, anyway. But Rick, thanks buddy, that's really helped, and as you can see, they've really come up a treat. So thank you once again. It means a lot, bud. And he even went to the own expense of sending it himself, and it wasn't cheap, and I did offer to pay him, but he wouldn't take it, so God bless him. He's got a big heart, Rick, I tell you, and he's extremely enthusiastic. He did start off building cars, and he's actually started, well, I mean, some of his older builds I've seen are fantastic, and as I say, he's actually thinking of actually forming his own YouTube channel. He's provisionally told me the name of what it is, but I'm not going to announce it. I'll leave it to the man himself as and when he's ready. So there you go. Yeah, as I say, very happy with the end results. It was a long process. Well, I say long process, about 3 or 4 months. Because I think I initially got started on this around about the mid-August with the actual build, and then finished it around about September, early part of September, and then got on with the painting weathering process, and then also at the same time I started on the actual diorama base itself. and I was inspired by Carl at Making Models, because he did a series on a crashed is it Y-wing fighter, and he just used an ordinary photo frame with some polyfiller, and hence I went out and got a tub myself, masked off the frame, and the frame incidentally only cost me £2 because it was on sale at the old clearance shop, which was part of the old Bental store. So I snapped it up, and it came in extremely handy, as you can see. Anyways, I masked it off as Carl had done with his, and then laid down the polyfiller, let that dry, but unfortunately it did slightly crack. Maybe I didn't mix it enough or whatever, I don't know. But then it was a case of laying down the base coats. I did the Steiner res first on the actual diorama, and then after that was done, I basically laid down the base coats of how it was going to be laid out. And then also, I was, rather than have it plain on its own, I thought, well, I'm going to feature it as though it's coming out of some sort of Russian woodland on the outskirts of Leningrad. So I ended up picking up some trees, which I'd had for ages, and they were actually Woodland Scenics trees, which is this set here, because you basically get the actual tree stem itself and then a load of flock. With the tree stem you can actually bend and manipulate the actual branches on it, and then just basically get the flock straight down. But before I did that, obviously I placed all the trees in there once I put down the polyfiller, so it would set, and they did, and then painted them with Tamiya's red brown, and then obviously after that I put on the flock using Woodland Scenics white PVA glue. Yeah, that was quite an undertaking, I can tell you. What I thought was going to take me a couple of hours took me a day and a half. So yeah, that was quite a task on that one. And then once I'd actually laid down the flex paste, I then proceeded to lay down some little grass tufts, which was made by a company called Greenline, and they're based out in Germany, believe it or not. And I did have the actual packet here itself. Bear with me a minute. What did I do with it? Oh, here we are. This is the stuff. It's actually made out in Germany. Got it on eBay via a website out in Germany. So yeah, it's made by a company called Greenline, as I say. So check them out on eBay. I've got a couple of packets of these, so it'll keep me going for a while. Just to break it up a little bit, I put the grass tufts in, and then, to be honest, when my brother saw it initially, he said, well, you got too many on there. So I pulled a few off, and it just gives it that little bit of contrast. I did actually put some in amongst the trees as well, and then once I actually got the snow on them, you can hardly see them, so I've just intermingled a few plain ones as well. And then once the flex paste was down, I used Woodland Scenics snow whilst it was still a bit damp, just to give it that texture. Hang on, if I can find it. Which is this stuff here. Okay, the old soft snow, flake snow, SM140. Sprinkled quite a bit of that over them. It was a messy process, and then obviously put some white glue in the trees, and it just gave it a quick sprinkle over that to give it that effect as though it had been snowing, or was snowing. And then at the bottom, if you notice, I've actually got all the snow drifts there as well, so I just used talcum powder and just used a bit of glue and dabbed it on, just to give it a little bit of sort of graduation, as it were. And then that was the base, very much done. Now with the tracks, I used the spare track that was left in the kit itself, and then just laid that down And then obviously what I use for the mud, because obviously it would churn the mud up, and as with the weight of the vehicle, I basically used Vallejo's thick mud. Now initially I did use the Russian mud, which was a lot darker, but when I actually did the weathering process on the Tiger, I put the wrong one on, so I had to blend it in again over the original. So I used this one. Now these are fantastic, I tell you. It really gives you the real sort of thick texture of mud churned up as well, and it just looks awesome. I am definitely going to be using this a lot more in my builds. In fact, I'll probably use it on the next one, which is going to be Shane Smythe's Sherman group build, because I'm going to be doing the Fury Sherman on that one, which I'm going to be starting possibly today or when I get back from Telford tomorrow, being Saturday tomorrow. Yeah, I snapped them up at Telford last year. I've got a whole set of them, including the splash mud as well. So that was basically the base done, and then I masked it, cleaned off the access, and that was that. The kit itself, as I say, the actual Tiger, it went together extremely well. I did do a lot of reference material, because as I say, if I can find the book, in fact I've got it right here. Okay, I basically used this book, Tiger in Action, 1942 to 45 by Jean Rastain. It did have some actual photographs of the 502nd out in Leningrad, which was a great help, because that gave me some photo reference detail, which would help with my understanding of the region and the way everything was weathered. This is the chapter. Here we go. Schwer Panzer up to Ilung 502, and on the initial, towards the latter stages of Leningrad and around about the spring of 43, you've got a side illustration of Tiger 3 here with the exhaust shrouds, and that's when I actually put a call out, and there's a photograph of one with the exhaust shrouds there. And then it was pointed out to me by, I think, I've forgotten his name, one of the researchers on Dragon, that the sides had plates on them. So I had some Tiger 1 spares from other Dragon kits, and used one of the side plates and just bolted it on over the other one, and that had the actual plates that you can see there for the side skirts, which were later put on when they were actually taken back to the factory and produced into the early version. And even in the photograph here, you notice it's got exhaust shrouds and they're slightly burnt, so there you go. And if you notice on the front here, unlike most Tigers, they'd actually taken the front wheel off. Now the reason being was because obviously with all the mud and that, they used to get stuck in the mud, so basically they took that off just to give it ease of access when they were running the vehicle. So I basically reproduced that, and if you notice in the photograph again, there's no front wheel, so there you go. Anyway, I basically used, unusually for me, Revell's paints for the camo, the white and the German grey, which actually bedded down really well with the UMP thinners. I did have to touch up here a little bit here and there, but that's part of the course, you know. And then once that was done on the vehicle, it was a case of weathering it up with what was it I used? Because I'd actually sort of drilled all the shell holes, and where it'd been hit by shells and bullet holes, and holed up the turret bin as well as the exhaust shrouds. and then obviously went along with a little drill and just basically scuppered it as though the shells had hit the vehicle. And then once that was done, when it got to the painting process, I just outlined them with a bit of silver and then a little bit of red as though it was the primer, and then went over the vehicle with clear coat, put the decals on, another clear coat, and then did the weathering process where I put a pin wash down with some oils. I've got some oil paints at the back there, thin them down with a bit of white spirit, and then basically put that on there. Could have used Aptalung, but I didn't want to go to the expense, so I made my own pin wash from that. And once that was done, it was a case of clear coating it again and then going over the vehicle with a dark dirt wash just to pop out the detail. Then it was another clear coat, so I've been using a fair old bit of clear, and then I started the weathering process with AK's Rust Effects, and again used some thinners on that as well. As you've noticed, got rust around the turret bin and where some of the shell hits are, and on the exhaust shrouds very subtly. So once that was done, I just basically gave it an overall matte coat with Tamiya's flat. That's before it got contaminated, unfortunately. I don't know how that happened, but it did. And then after that, it was a case of priming and painting. Well, I made up the figures, and as you can see, this set here with the infantry is from Master Box's Cold Wind set, which is this set here. And the detail on them is absolutely beautiful. Yeah, I had to do a tiny little bit of filling on them, but not that much that you give it any sort of great concern, to be honest with you. And I just love the sculpts on them as well. And also the crew figures, they came from Mini Arts German Tank Crew Winter 1943 to 45 set, and I just used the commander figure, and also I think this guy here as well, who's supposed to be the loader. The only thing I forgot to do with the loader is put his headphones on, but I thought, oh well, it's part of the cool, so that's that really. And then it was a case again of painting them up, detail painting them. All the, I think was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all 7 figures. And then obviously whilst that was drying, I just basically glued down the tiger onto the base, and then looked at it and I thought, well, I can't have it on its own because obviously it's in the deep of winter, so I needed to muddy it up. And basically I used, again for layos, well, initially I used Tamiya flat earth, light earth, just to give it that sort of graduation, as it were, with the mud, and went along the sides as well of the side plates, and obviously the running gear, and underneath the hull, the lower hull. And then after that I just went over it and put the wheels on, weathered the tracks obviously. I used AK's I think was their track set, and then just went over it with some MIG pigments, which was track brown as well. And then obviously after that was done, I applied the running gear to the Tiger, and then applied the tracks onto the Tiger as well. And what I actually did to create the sav was just use little dog globules of super glue, hold it down, and there you go, to give it the sort of weighted steel effect, as it were. And then after that I just put on the Vallejo mud around the running gear, and then very carefully over the tracks put some flex paste as though it picked up the snow as it was going through the terrain, and then put little globules of flex paste, as though it had sort of got bits of snow trapped in the actual running gear as well. And then after that I just gave it a sprinkling of snow over the whole of the vehicle, and that was the Tiger pretty much done. And then the next process after that, obviously I'd had problems with the Tamiya flat coat because one of the figures, this one here, started misting up, and I thought, oh my lord, what the hell am I going to do to rectify this? So what I then did was dig out, and I think this was yesterday, if I can find it, what have I done with it? Bear with me a minute, guys, I'm trying to find it now. Ah, here we go. Whoops, sorry, the pictures have all fallen over, sorry about the noise. Anyway, was used the old plastic coat, which is again the old matte coating, and I bought this at Hobbycraft. Oh god, I don't know how many years ago. It must be about 5-6 years ago. Stirred it up, gave all the figures a good old spray outside, and with him it got rid of all the misting. So admittedly I had to give it a couple of coats because the first coat just didn't mat down, so I had to shake it up again, matted all the figures down, which I was happy about because it actually emphasised the detail. And then because I noticed one of the figures had actually sort of misted up, which is this fella here, it gave it the effect as though it had been coated in snow. So I thought, happy accident there, and it did it on a few of the figures. So I thought, okay. And I thought, well, as I've used the old talc powder on the bottom of the trees and to give it the sort of snowdrift effect, and they are basically supposed to be walking in the midst of a blizzard out in Russia, I thought, right, I'll do the same. So I put talcum powder over the backs of their tunics and under on their boots, and obviously it would collect along the bottoms of their greatcoats, and more so on this figure as well, and the commander, and just a subtle little sprinkling on the crew of the Tiger, and then basically placed them into, once that was dry, basically placed them all into the vehicle, and then obviously the infantry on the side of the vehicle, and that was it, job done. And it's really giving you the effect as though they're really in the middle of a very cold north wind coming from the Russian Arctic or from the Arctic. So, you know, I'm really pleased at how it's turned out. It's giving you a sense of the atmosphere of the time, which Gary Bottoms actually told me, and he was very pleased when he saw the end results, as was my other buddy Mike Cohen, and many more actually. Very encouraging feedback I got from you guys, so thank you very much. And as I say, that is now this project wrapped up. So Evan and Adam, even they've given me some really positive feedback, so thank you guys, I really appreciate that. And in some respects, as you are too well, as Adam's a very much Tiger aficionado, I'm very humbled. So thank you, Adam, and also Rob Knight. So there you go. Yeah, I'm really happy at the way this turned out. Certainly one of my favourite builds of the year. I will also let you know that I have decided to enter into the 75th anniversary of the Curse group build, and I will be doing an intro video probably nearer the time, because I'm not really going to get started on that until around about February, because I'm about to get started on Shane Smythe's Sherman group build. So I will do an intro video, I think possibly later today, once I've got this uploaded. If not today, it'll be possibly tomorrow night when I get back from Tilford. But there you go. Anyway, I'm going to let this rotate a few times so you can sort of sit and watch it and take it in. In fact, I might just bring it a little bit closer so you can have a proper look at it. There you go. And feast your eyes on it. So enjoy, guys. And once again, thank you very much. And till next time, get kit crazy, happy modelling, and I'll speak to you soon.